Hey guys, Matthew and welcome to the 11th video of my boss healing series. So today we're going to be looking at the last of the Elder Guardian and, in my opinion, the worst of them all, which is the Eradicator. Now before that, we have to look at how to get these actual maps. As I mentioned in all the previous videos, you do get 0.5% chance per awakening level when killing a T14 plus map boss of any map to get a Shaper or Elder Guardian map. You can further increase this to up to 7.5% with Remnants of the Past, which you obviously should be doing if you intend to boss kill for currency, but the big kicker is obviously Guardian's Aid, which not quite doubles, but nearly the value of every single one of these bosses, as you're getting 2 bosses every single time. If you intend to fight the actual endgame bosses such as Shaper, Elder, and the Uber Elder, of course you'll want to gaze into the Abyss as well, which is going to increase the value significantly. These 6 nodes here are obviously going to be your go-to for bossing. Outside of that, Zana can also sell you these maps once in a while, and of course on the website you'll be looking for map is occupied by with a drop down for the Eradicator. You can also add further filters on the left hand side, such as map tier or even specific maps in the search item if you want to. Okay, now let's look at the actual mechanics of the fight, and of course after that we're going to do a showcase. So when it comes to the Eradicator, we have the guide on PoE Fan, which I'll link in the description. It's a little bit of a different boss fight compared to the other ones, really. He's a little bit more unique. The first thing he does is the lightning blast, which you can see on the floor right here. Actually, that's going to be one of the points that's going to come back over and over when it comes to this boss, is that you want to be paying attention to the floor more so than to the boss himself, and then the arena. The arena for this boss is incredibly deadly. As you can see all this blue stuff right here, these are not actually part of the boss fight, they are part of the arena. And this one gets even more crazy later on. Next, we also have the lightning tendrils. This is essentially the equivalent of an auto attack, so if you're not within melee range, he's never going to do that. He also has the super lightning tendrils, however, which he will do even if you're not within melee range. You can face tank this depending on your build, but my build obviously cannot. I'm going to absolutely get murdered if I try to face tank this. But it's essentially the exact same thing, lightning tendrils, except instead of being a very small range, it can hit all the way up to the entirety of the arena. When he does that, I would recommend trying to just run around in circles or whatever, try not to get hit. That being said, as you can see, these balls are also generated by the arena, and these are going to make it hard to dodge everything. This is why, personally, when it comes to this boss, I like to just do it white. Even if my build is capable of doing the other Elder Guardians, like completely juiced up, when it comes to the Eradicator, I actually don't mind just doing it white in order to save time, because time is currency. The more bosses you kill per hour, the more money you're going to make, even if you make a little bit less from that specific map by running it white. You have to remember that the most valuable thing that you're going to be getting is the bases, and of course the fragments, and these are guaranteed. You don't have to be putting any sort of modifiers on the map itself. Okay, next he has the Storm Bolt, which is what you can see right here. Right there, this is one of them, this is another. So he basically calls lightning from the sky, it just hits on the ground, it does damage, and then it also explodes, dealing even more damage. He also transforms, which is why this fight is so incredibly annoying, because while he's transformed, he's actually untargetable. You can't hit him, you can't even target him, but he can keep casting all these different abilities, which are ever so deadly. Not to mention, the arena is also going to keep, just throwing everything at you in order to get you to die. As you can see, these balls here are all part of the actual arena. Now, this is probably one of the easier mechanics to avoid. The other arena is actually a lot worse. All right, so that's pretty much it for the boss. As you can see, there's actually not very many mechanics compared to the other ones, but that's because he has the transform, which makes this boss super annoying. So let's hop right into a map. Of course, we're going to be clearing with Freezing Pulse, so using the exact same build as we have been for the entirety of the series, the 5-link totem, Freezing Pulse totem, and then we're going to swap into Ice Spear when it comes to the boss himself, so you guys can get a little bit of an idea of what the clear looks like on this build. Now, it looks like I forgot to put my Quicksilver Flask on, so I'm not quite running at my usual speed, but as you can see, the clear is actually pretty damn good on this build. The damage is really good. The fact that we freeze everything, as I've mentioned many times already, makes it a fairly okay build in terms of defenses. We don't have too much in terms of defensive layers outside of MOM, but we only have not even quite 2,000 mana, 3,000 life. It's very little. Of course, we also get Arcane Cloak for an additional 1,000 or so shield, but that's just not very much, to be completely honest, in terms of endgame content. So this build is all about not getting hits and being strategic with what you're doing. When it comes to mapping, however, it is pretty brain dead considering the fact that you are going to freeze everything, which means you don't have to worry about much. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a portal down, swap in our ice spear instead of our freezing pulse, and we are going to move on to the Eradicator showcase. So for the first phase, I'm probably just going to go ahead and phase him because he's not going to be doing anything too special. But for the second phase onwards, we're going to go ahead and look at all these different mechanics. Alright, so this is the arena that I absolutely hate. The first phase is actually pretty easy. It's the lasers that you guys saw in the screenshots, but the second phase for this arena is really annoying to deal with. So we're going to go ahead and debuff him, and we should just about, you know, pretty much insta-face him, really. And then we're going to move on. As you can see, these are the storm bolts that he was doing right there. Alright, moving on to the second part of the fight. Here we go. So this is a transform where he's basically untargetable and he's going to do a bunch of different things. He can basically do any of his attacks. Now these little things are actually ads. They spawn, they become ads. They look like just like sparks, if you will, but then they become ads. Let's see what else he's got. This is the empowered lightning tendril. It's actually quite hard not to get hit by any of it. I recommend just kind of like dashing back and forth, kind of like I did, in order not to get hit. These are some of the storm calls. As you can see, extremely deadly, and their AoE is a lot bigger than it seems, right? It didn't look like I was going to get hit by that, but it absolutely destroyed me. Which brings me to my next point. When it comes to map mods to avoid, it's really just about the AoE and of course the attacking cast speed. So the exact same as all the other bosses, really nothing too special here. So these, as long as you keep moving, you should never really get hit by them. These, however, are a lot harder because they do seem to have a one of the damage portion that actually hits you before you even see it, which makes it, well, a lot more annoying to deal with. Okay, so here we go. He's going to be spawning more ads, so I'm going to put a couple totems down in order to kill the ads, and then we're going to be looking at the different mechanics of the boss. What does he got for me here? So there we go with the storm calls. As you can see, it actually hits me as long, if I'm not moving constantly, it's going to hit me. And when it comes to the empowered lightning tendrils, right, the one that hits like the entirety of the arena, I literally have to be dashing from left to right every, like, almost off of cooldown in order not to die. So like I said, this boss is really annoying compared to all the other ones. It's one of the ones that I just can't seem to outskill ever. He's just going to kill me no matter what if my build can't tank a hit. And this build cannot tank a hit. Therefore, it's all about me killing him before he kills me. Fortunately for me, that's pretty easy to do because the build does quite a lot of damage even on a 5-link. Okay, here we go. More ads coming in. These balls are also going to be quite deadly, of course. So one thing to note about this boss is that everything he does is going to shock you. Because he's a pure lightning damage boss, since he can shock you with literally anything, it means that at all times you are going to be taking increased damage. So one thing that I highly recommend if you are struggling with this boss and you can't just outright DPS the crap out of him and down him instantly, is going to be to get yourself an immunity flask to being shocked, because that is what's going to make this boss significantly harder than it really needs to be. So this is the part of the arena that I think is absolutely crazy. So you have these little totem things, right, and they spawn these storm burst balls, if you will, that are actually quite slow moving, but then they all blow up and they will one-shot you. These balls do an insane amount of damage, not to mention that, of course, they do shock you. So, shock immunity, massive for this boss. Now, I've died a bunch of times in this showcase. That's really just because I'm not absolutely just murdering this boss, but let's go ahead and do exactly that. Alright, so we're going to debuff him, and then we should be able to pretty much take him down instantly, as our damage is quite good. So, again, these bosses are all basically just a DPS check. If you have enough damage to just kill them, you're not really going to have to worry about any of the mechanics. But, of course, for these showcases, I'm trying to showcase the mechanics, so that if you're somebody who's a little bit newer to the game, or playing maybe an off-meta build, or just not a boss-killing build, you know how to deal with this, with these bosses, you know, without being able to completely just one-shot them. Anyways, that's pretty much it for the Eradicator. In my opinion, the hardest of the Elder Guardians. In my opinion, the most annoying by far. As you can see, it took me quite a few portals. Now, of course, if I was to just outright come in there and DPS him, I'd probably mostly one-shot him. I'd probably still end up dying once or twice because of the amount of damage that this man does, especially without a shock immunity flask. However, if you have a shock immunity flask, which you can totally beastcraft, right? So if you have let's say you are running a Quicksilver flask or something, right? And you have another Quicksilver laying around in your stash, you can just go ahead and very quickly beastcraft it with dowsing, or no, sorry, dowsing is not it. With grounding, this is going to be immunity to being shocked, and with this, it's going to make the boss significantly easier, because the thing about this boss is that he does lightning damage, and one thing about lightning damage in PoE is that it has very, very big ranges. So he could be hitting you for nothing, but he could be hitting you for a complete jackpot. And of course, if he crits you when he hits you for the maximum damage that he can, you are going to get absolutely murdered. Which is why lightning damage is so deadly in this game. It's because the range is so damn high. So yeah, a shocking immunity flask is very, very nice for this boss. Anyways, that's pretty much going to be it for this bossing video. So before I go, as always, I do want to say a massive thank you to my supporters: Joseph, Atticus, Don, Brandon, Fruitfly, Reese, Pan, Central Bard, Adorant, Welcome Back, Neroth, Jacob, Thomas, Nike, The Great Master, Raymond, Alex, Emil, Tim, Grimoire, Lost with the Map, Flame Scorpion, Nathaniel, Richard, Johnny, Scott, Ronald, Willie, Kevin, Moonkiss, Mercury, Bidzin, and Axel, as well as, of course, anybody else who wishes to remain anonymous, anybody else who has supported me in the past. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this showcase, and I'll catch you guys in the next guide. Peace.